everyone. Welcome to another round of the Carib Sim Motorsport ACC Championship. This time we are in Suzuka, round 8. So all the way over to the Far East in Japan, or from the lovely comfort of our own homes. So, last time out at Silverstone was round 7. Proved a cracking set race. We have battled all up and down the field, hoping to try and replicate that going into round 8 all the way through. Suzuka's a tricky track. It's probably one of the trickier tracks on the calendar so far. It has a good set of momentum-based S-bends, teamed with a couple of hairpins, and all about keeping minimum speed as high as possible. So it's going to prove to be an interesting set of circumstances. This will probably favour some of the mid-engine cars through the first half of the circuit, things like the Lamborghini and McLaren in the GT3s, and then perhaps the Porsches of the GT4s. So, with that in mind, we are just going to have a quick recap of what's happened in qualifying so far. If you're familiar amongst us, you will know the format. The first 20 minutes qualifying dedicated to the GT4s, that's when they have the track to themselves, and then the final 20 minutes is for the GT3s. So with 8 minutes left, of course, that does now mean that the GT3s are heading around, as you can hopefully see. But let's just recap what's happened already with the GT4s. So it's worth mentioning, we do have, just before I get to that, sorry, that there are a couple of new faces, new cars in amongst us today. First up, now, this is a name of a man belonging to the nation of Canada, and so therefore I might struggle to say it, is Lepke, is what I'm going to go with. He's joined us in the Chevrolet Camaro GT4. And then we have Carol in the number 42 Lexus GT3. So we have a couple of new names in amongst us, which I will endeavour to not forget as the race goes on. So let's start off then with the current pole sitter of the GT4s. He's won the previous 2 classes. So currently sitting on pole in GT4, Stavros Konstantinidis in his Aston Martin, the number 3 car, currently with who set a lap time of a 2 minute 12.4. Of course, there is a significant gap between GT3s and GT4s, so that puts him in 13th overall currently. Second place in the GT4s, Kurt Keith. He's in his BMW M4, the number 38 car, only marginally behind Konstantinidis, about 6/10 separating them. Then Dixon Hurst in the Aston Martin, number 570, 5/10 behind Kurt Keith, and so for 15th overall and 3rd in GT4, that was Dixon Hurst. 4th place, Dami Ayo in his Mercedes AMG GT4, setting a time of 2 minutes 13 seconds, 0.3, so 4/10 off Dixon there. So Dami has always made the point he needs to find the pace coming into these races. He's always looking to improve. But he's always been more of a racer than a qualifier, is what he's stuck by. And then last but certainly not least in the GT4s is the new boy Lepke in his Camaro GT4, setting a time of 2:14.9. He's new to the series, so we'll be looking to see how he gets on through the race, see what he can dazzle us with. So with that in mind, all the GT4s, they're now snugly in the pit lane, not doing too much. We have currently in the lead of the GT3s, Grant Willamot, a familiar face. He won the overall last time out at Silverstone. Currently leading the way by 2/10 in front of Sandberg. Sandberg and Vierik, the Turn 1 Pro drivers, the last time out they were experimenting with the Bentley. Not the Bentley. The Bentley GT3 is their go-to car, but last time out they're experimenting with the Mercedes, and this time they have opted to go for the Aston Martin. So a slight change of pace. That now does mean that there are 8. Is that right? Yeah, there are 8 Aston Martin GT3s, which we don't like to think this is a one-make series, but it's like the most popular car seems to be coming out on top here. The two Aston Martins currently leading the way. So Sandberg and Weirich are going with the Aston Martin, as I said, this time. So a slightly new car for them again. It'll be interesting to see whether they can be slightly more competitive than they were at Silverstone. They opted to basically sit out the start, not get in anyone's way, not affect the championship points, and then just cruise around, learning bits about the car. And just generally having a good time. So then, third place, Chris Corbin in his BMW M6. So I say that, he has just jumped to second place, putting in a fastest third sector as well, and setting purples in the last sector with a 2-minute dead 0.06. So just over a tenth off of Grant Willemot. He's got a tenth to find somewhere throughout the lap, which is easily possible around Suzuka. And that does mean, of course, that Sandberg drops down to third place. Now in fourth place, I've been saying his name wrong for the past 4 rounds. Jelani Patterson. I have been making the mistake of Jelani, and he pulled me to one side and said, no, it's Jelani Patterson. So Jelani Patterson in fourth place in his trusty Hurricane. And then in fifth place, currently Wilhelm Weirich, sitting with a 2-minute dead 0.9 flat. So that's the top 5. Of course, it's all shifting and changing as the qualifying unfolds. We've got 3 minutes left, so the drivers might just be coming up for their out laps, warming the car up and just getting prepared to give it one last go for their final attempt. So we have a couple of drivers in the pits. Chris Corbin, Weirich, Havard Rolfsson and Derek Rudder still in the pit, so whether they'll come out and give it another go, we will wait and see. I suspect they will. In fact, as I just said that, Derek Rudder does leave the pits, looking to close the gap to Carroll. At the minute, all the drivers spread fairly out. They've given themselves a nice amount of space on track. Of course, you don't want to start racing someone during qualifying. So let's now jump on board with Mr. Grant Willemot. We'll be able to see a lap of Suzuka. He is currently going through the Degners, or just about to, I should say. And we'll be able to catch on board with him how he's getting on. I believe he has just backed off slightly, going into tight hairpin. Perhaps he's not too happy with the lap. Still trying to warm the car up. So when he comes around, we will talk you through a full lap of Suzuka and see what all lovely action we have in store. See, he's still trying to warm up the car, so it's more than likely he is just taking an extended time to try and get some heat into the tyres. And coming over into the last chicane, we'll be able to see him do a full flying lap of the Suzuka GP circuit. So coming across the line, we use the timing line is the second checkered line on the Suzuka GP circuit. So coming into the first corner, you're hard on the brakes just a smidge, back off, roll it through the corner, and try and get all the way into that second apex. You want to get as close to that as you possibly can, run it out to the left, but you want to bring it then over to the right. So you come in through the snake section, all about carrying momentum. You don't want to just go too hot into one of the corners, run wide, and then it just messes up the rest of the section. So you want to be as steady as there through possible. Make your way through Dunlop corner. Again, try and get as close to that curb as you can. Just roll on the throttle. If you get on a bit too early, you find yourself in the gravel, and then it just sucks you off into the wall. Then coming through Degner 1 and Degner 2, a very fun section in my mind. Just keeping the minimum speed to its highest. Then coming up to the famous hairpin. Very tight part of the track. Get the car shut down. There's some camber to use on the inside. You want to get as close to the apex as possible, and then just squeeze on the throttle coming through 200R. Just nice and flat through here. Aero keeps everything in check. A good stab of the brakes, drop it a couple of gears. Nice smooth section through Spoon Curve. You don't want to get on the throttle too early, because again you can find yourself going over on that green stuff on the right, which gets incredibly slippery and it just drags you over to the gravel. But now flat out down the back stretch, you're going to come into the most famous corner on the track, 130R. It can sometimes be flat if you play your cards right, but Grant opts for a slight lift, only for the brake, and then hard on the brakes coming down into Casio Triangle. A little bit late, in fact he does just overshoot that a little bit. He'll be disappointed with that. Whether he would have been able to improve, I don't know, but luckily we managed to see a whole lap on board with Grant there, and he bails into the pit lane, as that is the end of qualifying. Currently on track, there's still 3 cars coming across. We have the number 21 of Charlie Martin, see if she is able to improve. We also have Derek Rudder and the new boy number 42, Carol. Charlie did not manage to improve. As you see Derek come across, Derek did not manage to improve either. And with that, Carol must have been on an invalid lap, because the session has indeed ended. So that marks the end of qualifying. And with that, the drivers will start to prepare all their setups, switch from their qualifying setups to their race trim, add all the fuel, get the tyres in check, make sure all the brake pads are in the right setting. And I will take you through the starting grid. So a familiar sight to be in P1 at the end of qualifying. Grant Willimot on the top step, number 222 Aston Martin. He's going to be leading the way down into the first corner. But then Chris Corbin has put in a mega effort to end up second place there. He's done especially well. The BMW M6 driver, Apex Fever team. Then third place, Oscar Sandberg in his Aston Martin Vantage. He will be looking to get to grips with that Aston as quickly as possible as well, perhaps with some more prior experience than the Mercedes last week. Feeling a bit more confident to put it in third. Then Jelani Patterson in his Huracan, coming in fourth place. Something to watch out for is him coming through. He's often a dark horse. He made a bid to go around the outside of the first corner at Silverstone last time. Whether he'll be thinking he can do the same from fourth place, I don't know. It's yet to be seen. I hope so. That would be rather spectacular to see. Then fifth place, Wilhelm Weirich, the fellow Turn 1 pro driver of Sandberg, currently in fifth place, number 13, Aston Martin. Whether that number is a lucky one for him, I hope it is, and not an unlucky one. Then in sixth place, Jamal Badou. Badou had a bit of an unfortunate time last time out at Silverstone. He did, in fact, cross the line in third place, but due to a slight mess up with the pit stop, didn't change tyres, and so had a 130-second penalty enforced on him at the end of the race, which was a real shame. A third place for Jamal would have been something special. But hopefully this time we'll see him further up the grid as well, and this time without a penalty. Who knows? Then seventh place, AJ Jones, also in the Aston Martin. You'll notice we have a gaggle of Aston Martins. That is the collective term for Aston Martins, a gaggle. So you have AJ in seventh, number 69 car. Eighth place, Havard Rolfsson. Also, as I said, in the Aston Martin, number 18 car. And then in ninth place, Omar Badou at the number 762. So all of these drivers, the last four, had a good set of battles in this previous round at Silverstone. Rolfsson, Badou and Jones all coming across each other on track at one point, all vying for position. I'm sure that there might be some afters, scores to settle for some of the drivers, hoping to get one up on their fellow competitors. Then one of the new boys, Carroll, in his Lexus GT3, number 42. A good start for him, actually to put it in P10. And then in 11th place, Capelli in the Aston Martin Vantage GT3. Capelli was a Bentley fanboy coming into this. He's been sticking with the Bentley, his Salmon Bentley, which I'm going to miss. very much so. In the previous round, he switched to the Aston Martin. And then in 12th place, Charlie Martin. She has decided to stick with the Bentley Continental. Now, all the other drivers seem to be flying away from the Bentley. She's opted to stick with it. Charlie has been racing in a couple of iRacing series with a couple of pro drivers, where she's managed to pick up a few things. We'll hopefully wait and see and put it to the test here in the CSM ACC Championship. 13th place, and not the last of the GT3s, Derek Rudder in the McLaren 720S. The number 84 car, bringing up nearly the rear of the GT3 grid. And on the grid at the very back is Axel Svensson, who has managed to join us for this race. Luckily, I've missed Svensson the past couple of rounds, but he has said beforehand for this race he is feeling rather poorly, which is just sad to hear. So hopefully Svensson did not manage to make the full bit of qualifying, but with any luck he'll be around for the race and he'll be able to continue, but we'll wait and see on that and see how he's feeling. But there you go, that's the grid. Of course, we have the GT4s as well. I'll run through them again in rather quickly. So in 14th place, first the GT4s was Konstantinidis, and then in 15th, Kurt Keith, 16th, Dixon Hurst, 17th, Damiao, and then 18th, Lepke, bring up the rear of the GT4. So only 5 GT4 cars this time round. Of course, that does then mean there are 14 GT3s to pack the field. So with that worked out rather well, that timing, I must say. The drivers are just about set off on their warm-up lap, get all the car nice and warmed up, so when they come down into turn 1 there are no surprises. In fact, I believe Jamal Badou has teleported to the pit lane, so whether he didn't quite manage to get things set up in time, I'm not too sure. He'll be, if that was planned, of course. We don't know, perhaps we can ask him at the end of the race. But with any luck, he'll be around for the start of the race proper. Oh, is it my bad? Sandberg, not Badou, that went into the race. A slight mess up with my timing screen there. So, yes, Sandberg has teleported to the pit lane. So maybe he's taking the same approach that he did last time out at Silverstone. Just letting the boys stick to themselves at the front, and then just making his way through towards later stage. But Vierik has opted to stay with us, unlike last time. So just a couple of the drivers moving up a place. Jelani, Patterson, Vierik, of course, all moving up a place. Patterson will now start in 3rd, Vierik in 4th, and so on down the grid. As Sandberg has made way, the others will step up a bit. So the format of this race, an hour long, as it always has been, as it always, well, it may not always will be, but we'll find out for next season. The talks are ongoing for season 2 as to how it will be structured, so stay tuned for that. That will be released within the next couple of weeks, maybe a month or so. So yes, an hour long, mandatory pit stop. There is a pit window of 20 minutes in the middle of the race, so once there is 40 minutes left on the clock, pit window will open, and that is when the drivers will be expected to dive into the pit lane to do a mandatory tyre change. No need to worry about fuel, so just a change in the tyres and then be on their way again. So that pit window, 20 minutes, so it will close when there's 20 minutes left of the race. And if drivers pit outside of that window, it is possible that the game will not register they have pitted, as happened to Badou last time out. And he must remember to change his tyres this time. So, as the front of the pack starts to come around the spoon, as they make their way through towards the end of the back straight, they'll start to form up 2 by 2, Noah's Ark position. That's when you need to have the car how you like it before you reach the start-finish straight. You put the hammer down. Now, Suzuka famously has quite a narrow stretch through the snake, so the drivers will be wanting to filter into single file formation, hopefully by the time they reach the famous S-bends on the first quarter of the track. But then again, you might get a brave soul just trying to stick it around the outside and causing some drama, which, you know, it might happen for my sake and your sake at home, let's hope they do, but we don't want to end in any calamitous starts. So here we go, the drivers just foiling themselves up. That's where the nerves just maybe start to creep in again. They might have had a couple of nerves right at the start when they're sitting on the grid, but hopefully dissipating them as the warm-up lap has gone on. So coming round the Casio triangle, Hamburg the only one in the pit lane, so the rest of the drivers have managed to make it through no problem. And they'll just be waiting for the lights to go out, and then they'll be on their way as they reach the start-finish line. And it's lights out when we go. Round 8 of the CSM ACC Championship. It's underway. It's currently sticking with single file, 2x2. Grant Wilmot has the inside. Chris Corbin tries to stick it around the outside towards the front of the pack. And does manage to. There is a car turned round towards further back through the field. I'm not quite sure who that was as of yet. But they seem to make it through relatively unscathed through that pack. In fact, 2 of the GT3s did get turned round at the first corner there. There was a bit of contact further back between, I believe that was Badou and AJ Jones, pushing Badou slightly off track, but managing to continue. Didn't seem to be any major damage there as the drivers now single file making their way through. A couple of the GT3s had an incident, so we had, I believe it was Carroll and, not actually too sure who the other one was. What I saw, that Carroll did get turned around. He has dropped back behind the GT4 cars. He'll have a job to come through them as quickly as possible. And then there's Sandberg at the back of the pack, just making his way through. So opting just to start a race from the pit lane. We also have Axel Svensson in the pits. Whether he has retired from the race, I'm not too sure, but he has teleported to the pit lanes. Whether there was some incurable damage on the car from the first corner, I'm not too sure. I certainly hope not. Teleporting into his Bentley, so wait to find out what is the situation with that. He hasn't left the game yet, so hopefully it's just a bit of a repair on the damage, if there is any. But it's a shame for Svensson's start. So with that, Grant Wilmot still leads the way as he comes towards the end of the first lap. He's coming over the line. Then we've got Chris Corbin in second place, quickly followed by Vierick. Vierick has managed to jump Patterson amongst all of that and is now hot on the heel of Chris Corbin. He comes down into the first corner. Vierick opts not to make a move. Probably a sensible choice. He's still got the rest of this race to try and get past. Not do anything silly on the first couple of corners. First couple of laps, sorry. So as the drivers make their way through the snake, any moves made here will be very opportunistic ones. I wouldn't expect too much drama in the early stages of the race through here. So of course that did mean that Jelani Patterson dropped back to 4th place. AJ Jones has managed to, of course with Sandberg dropping out, managed to retain 5th place. Jamal Badou did drop back a couple of places. He's currently sitting in 7th behind Jones and Omar Badou. As we just see Jamal run a little bit wide coming out of Degner 2. But no harm done, managed to keep it out of the wall, good to see. Charlie Martin has jumped a couple of places. That was a good start for Charlie, going up to 8th place. She always just have a good start, some good racecraft at the early stages of the race. Then you've got Havard Rolfsson in 9th place. Simon Capelli in 10th. And then Derek Rudder 11th. Carroll in 12th. So of course Carroll did have that rather tumultuous start, but being turned round at turn 1. But now managed to make his way back through the GT4s and is well on his way. So with the GT4s leading the way, Kurt Keefe, the number 38 BMW, managed to overturn Stavros Konstantinidis on the first lap. A good move from Kurt, would have seen him do that, as we just see Sandberg nipping on the heels of the younger brother Aston, now making his way past superior speed, the GT3s. not playing a role in the GT4's lives. It's good to see. Whether Stavros will be lining up a move coming into the Casio triangle or into the first corner, I'll just wait and see what happens there, see how it develops. Stavros a bit much later on the brakes there than the BMW. The Aston does have superior braking performance than the BMW, it seems. Right under the rear wing of the Beamer, but no opportunity for Konstantinidis to get past, so perhaps lining up a move into the first corner. Coming down the pit straight, he'll have to try all the way through the gears, tucked into the slipstream. Perhaps he just feigns a look, tucks in behind, not too close, not close enough to even think about making a move there really. So just now going single file through the snake, although the Aston does close up quite considerably coming on the exit of that corner. The BMW just running slightly wide. And again, running slightly wide. That does mean Stavros can just perhaps try it around the outside. It would be a brave move to try it there. We'll have the inside for the next section. No, but just decides, thinks better of it. Just backs out slightly, BMW cutting across his front. That would have resulted in quite a nasty accident if that had happened. But the Aston, again, just trying to come back, going through Dunlop, closing the gap. The BMW struggling a little bit through the snake, it seems. Perhaps the front end of that Aston is better suited for that part of the track in their setups. Coming through the Degners now. Still the Aston Martin behind. Whether Stavros can think about lining up and move into the hairpin, we'll wait and see. But the on-track battle behind between Dami Ayo and Dixon Hurst also looks like to be a lively one. Dami did manage to overturn Dixon on the first couple of laps, it seems. So Dami's race pace coming into fruition there. The AMG versus the Aston Martin. So the AMG, a bit of a squirrely car in the GT4 class. It can be considered more of a handful than the others. That Aston proving true and reliable, being a popular car across the grid to choose from. So the Aston just running a little bit wide, getting a bit squirrely on the power there, perhaps allowing AO just to break away slightly if Dixon Hurst did want to line up a move into the Casio triangle. That might have just blown it for him, coming into 130R. Both make it through okay, that's good to see. In fact, Dixon running slightly wide there, that perhaps will be a track limits warning. Of course, track limits a hot topic at any race circuit, but there on the exit at 130R will be one the stewards will be looking out for and keeping a very strict eye on. And then bringing up the rear of the GT4, just 5 seconds behind Hurst is Lepke in his Camaro. So jumping up to the head of the field, as you can see, Weyrich has not managed to get past Patterson just yet. He's dropped slightly behind, not too far, just a couple of tenths. Patterson behind. Corbin, I should say. And then Patterson, the Lamborghini, just 2 seconds off of Weyrich, a bit further back. With AJ Jones for comfort as well. AJ right on the heels of Patterson, just 7 tenths behind, putting the pressure on. Patterson will just have half an eye in his mirror. Nothing too distracting from that far back, but it will be something just to keep an eye on to measure that gap. And then slightly further back, the two Badus, the two Doos. Omar followed by Jamal. Jamal has managed to close the gap slightly on Omar. When we left them last time out, they were about a second apart, close to half a second now, 5 tenths. Jamal running a little bit wide there on the exit 130R. There might be a warning for himself for track limits. So electing to use a bit more of the track there than Omar, but did cost him slightly. Lost about 7-8 tenths through the Casio triangle there. So Omar will scarper away as quickly as he can, looking to increase that gap as much as possible. Now, as we look even further back, there seems to be the trio of Simon Capelli, Charlie Martin, Oscar Sandberg. Sandberg is coming back through the field after starting from the pit lane, perhaps lining up a move into the first corner on Charlie Martin, right under the rear wing of that bend. He pulls to the inside, slightly later on the brakes, dives to the inside, hits the apex, and Charlie gives him all the racing room. Very respectful racing there. Oscar has run a little bit wide on the exit. Charlie just closed the gap slightly, but now Oscar will be looking to overturn Capelli as soon as possible. Might even drag Charlie Martin with him. Of course, Capelli will probably want to allow Sandberg through as quickly as possible. Sandberg is the quicker driver, so whether Capelli does in fact decide to let Sandberg go with no real issues, whether there was some team orders there, I'm not too sure. Capelli is a turn 1 driver, but that has in fact allowed Martin right onto the heels. That's Martin. In fact, the Capelli just struggling on the exit there has allowed the Bentley through on the outside, just running wide onto the AstroTurf, struggling for grip. Has allowed Charlie Martin through. So Charlie Martin back up to 9th place. Good move from her. In fact, that does also mean that Derek Rudder is also not too far behind from Capelli, about 1.5 seconds. Derek will be looking to be as opportunistic as possible, capitalise on any moves that he sees unfolding. Then from Rudder backwards there is Carroll and Rolfsson. I think Rolfsson has suffered an issue to drop back to 13th place. Last time we saw him, he was in 9th place, whether he had a slight spin or an incident with another car. Not too sure, but interesting to watch the gap between Rolfsson and Carroll now. Try and judge the pace. See if a move is likely at all coming over the next half a lap. Does not seem to be. In fact, Carroll just extending the gap ever so slightly over Rolfsson. And then now looking back through the GT4s, the gap between Heath and Constantinidis has stayed roughly the same. They're still next to each other on track. No changes of position to report, and the same goes for AO and Hurst as well. So I think these are going to be the battles to watch, just as we see Heath running a little bit wide, feeling the pressure. The Aston Martin getting right under the rear wing of the BMW, nearly colliding. Had to perhaps back out the throttle a little bit there. Caught off guard was Constantinidis, but that did actually give Heath a slight advantage coming out the corner. So managed to keep momentum better than the Aston Martin. Heath actually opting to defend slightly there, making his intentions known, as Heath was feeling the pressure coming into the Cassier triangle there. No changes of position so far. Looking back, AO managing to also fend off Dixon Hurst. No changes there. Dixon, though, of course, he did start in 3rd position in the GT4s, so any gains he can make back on AO. This will probably be the battle to watch. The last spot of the podium for the GT4s, an important spot, one that will be fought for the whole of the race. The pit stops will probably become quite important during the middle stages of the race, because any time lost, braking a little too early, perhaps getting a stop-go penalty if you end up being a bit too hot on the brakes coming into the pits, don't get it shut down enough. So the pit stops are going to be very important in this race, I'm sure. In fact, Dixon nearly running into the back of the AMG there, had to get right on the anchors. That's the Aston Martin's able to carry a bit more speed through the Degners than the AMG, but the AMG still managing to keep ahead again. The Aston Martin of Hurst just getting a bit squirrely on the grass. You can tell he's really pushing, hustling the car to try and get past AO. Perhaps he feels if he can get past, he can just start to pull away slightly with that better momentum through the corners. But AO doing a tremendous job of defending from Hurst through the early stages of this race. This is we reached the 47-minute mark. It's only 13 minutes through, and there's so many on-track battles to choose from. I don't know who to watch. In fact, the battle between Heath and Constantinidis has jumped up slightly to a 2nd. And then we have, jumping forward to Patterson and Weyrich. Weyrich has in fact dropped back slightly from Chris Corbin, so that has drawn him closer to Jelani Patterson. Patterson now within a 2nd of Weyrich. Going to be an important move for Patterson in his championship hopes. So Grant Willamot out in the lead, followed by Chris Corbin, about 3 seconds separating them, and then another 3 or so seconds, approaching 4 seconds, separating Weyrich and Corbin. And now we're currently watching Patterson try and close the gap even more to Weyrich, about 7/10 separating them. But then Patterson has no need to worry looking back. Jones is a further 2 seconds behind. So if Patterson can overturn Weyrich, this would be a big boost of confidence for him. Of course, while Weyrich is in a new car, a new championship car for himself. He is considered a very good driver. Of course, Weirich and Sandberg last week were taking in place in the RWM's 12 Hours of Spa, and they placed third place in the charity race. They raced with one of the ACC developers, actually. We're in the 2018 Ferrari GT3 around Spa, and they managed to come third place overall with about 50 cars. So these are some high caliber drivers we have in this series, well known throughout it. And something I've found out, of course, that these Sandberg and Weirich are the fellas that will take you around the Nürburgring, the ring taxi. If you ever are graced and want to be flung around the Nürburgring at breakneck speed, wondering how you're staying out of a wall, these are the guys that will do it. And they very charitably offered a few rides for that stream back last week. So it's good to have Weirich and Sandberg in this championship, and Turn 1 powering us as well. Of course, there are a lot of Turn 1 teams in this championship. Also, Turn 1 Pro, as I said, of Sandberg and Weirich. Got the Pro-Am team of Damien Yearwood and I believe the one is Axel Svensson. Of course, Damien not being able to join us this week. And then we have two amateur teams with Charlie Martin, Simon Capelli, and a couple of other drivers who currently just escaped me. I will find out their names very shortly. But yes, a big influence on the CSM Championship here. In fact, Weirich has managed to pick up a drive-through penalty. This will probably be for track limit offences. Picked it up just coming out of Spoon Curve. Again, another place to pick up any drive-through penalties, any track limits warnings. So Weirich not taking it on this lap, opting to stay out, but this is going to drop him down the order massively. This pit lane at Suzuka is, I'd say, medium leg. It's certainly not the longest in the world, but considering how it's all down the main straight, you do lose quite a bit of time compared to the drivers going full throttle and you're trundling along doing 50 kilometers an hour. So that will probably change Patterson's approach slightly. If he's trying to perhaps start a fight with Weirich and an on-track battle, he may think that's not worth it anymore, just let to sit behind him. Weirich will drop down the order quite considerably, probably to, I would say, maybe 10th place. Quite considerable drop for Weirich. I'm sure he'll not be happy in that car, especially as he's going to be looking to try and catch up with Corbin and Willemot as much as possible. But whether a podium is still on the cards, I'm not too sure for Weirich. Of course, anything is possible. He might. I say this. I don't actually think you can serve it with a pit stop. So you need to take it with. You need to do a pit stop and then do the drive-through afterwards. I don't think you can team them up, because a thought that might have been going through. It went through my head, admittedly, was that if you can do the pit stop and the drive-through at the same time, then you would in fact not be having to serve that penalty. So he will have to do a pit stop and then a drive-through as well. So as we just look slightly further back, Patterson made a slight mistake coming out of the hairpin, dropped back 0.6 as we see Weirich head past Lepke. Now starting to catch the GT4 cars as the main field, the GT3s. Corbin has in fact managed to close on Willemot slightly. The gap at 4 seconds, it was at 4.5 about a lap ago. So again, this will be something that with the GT4 traffic will play a hand in. Grant Willemot still in the lead by 4 seconds over Chris Corbin. But as they approach the back of the GT4 field, of course that will also influence any battles going on between Heath and Constantinidis and Ayo and Hurst. As they currently stand, there have been no changes for position there, so they're still head to tail how he left them. But this will bring the field closer together for both the GT3s and the GT4s. It'll be interesting to see how the traffic plays out, whether anyone decides to bail into the pit lane early, get out of there, not be affected by that, or whether they chance it and try and pick their way through and get the most of those tyres. It'll be very interesting to find out. So looking further back on the field, I can can see that I think it was there was a slight scrap for position between Simon Capelli and Charlie Martin. Those are two names. Let's make them correct. Coming through the Casio triangle, I just picked up on the track map. These drivers are very close together. So that does mean that Charlie Martin has managed to overturn Simon Capelli. When we last saw them, they were the other way around. In fact, let's just correct myself slightly there. We did, in fact, see the pass that Charlie made on Capelli, but Capelli therefore got back slightly and just lost a little bit of time then to Charlie. But looking to make that back. The Aston Martin very good through these Degners. You can see that, just keeping the momentum through the corner, managing to close about 2/10 just through that section alone. So this is probably going to be another good battle to happen throughout the race. Capelli currently about a 10th up on his previous best. So a good lap for Capelli so far, bringing the pressure to Charlie Martin. Just as we heard the race engineer say, the pit window is open. We'll wait and see who the first person to dive into the pits will be. And we can base off of that how the pit stop is going to affect the order of the race so far. Capelli not quite being able to close the gap on Martin. In fact, he's opting to stay out of the tow. Maybe he's having some temperature troubles with his tyres, just opting to cool them down on the cooler part of the tarmac. In fact, Weirich has dived into the pits, as has Tammy Ayo. In fact, Weirich clearing his drive-through penalty, so he's not taken his mandatory pit stop yet. He has just cleared his drive-through, and Ayo is also in the pits for his scheduled tyre change. So Ayo, the first to blink out of the GT4 runners. It'll be very interesting to see where he comes out compared to Dixon Hurst. Of course, Dixon, towards the end of the race, will have some fresher tyres. If the cars are set up for go as fast as possible mode without a care for tyres, that would come into play towards the last 10 minutes or so of the race, where you'll perhaps see Dixon start to close the gap on Ayo. Approaching then. So Weirich did in fact come out in 8th place, so I was a bit wrong with my prediction of where he would come out. I did say 10th, but 8th, perfectly reasonable. Currently 11 seconds off Omar Badu and the rest of the field. In fact, Oscar Sandberg is currently in 6th place, so he has managed to overturn. I say that. I think, just as I said that, I'm wondering whether Sandberg has unfortunately disconnected. It might look that way, to be honest, which is very unfortunate. Whether that was internet related or anything else, I'm not too sure, but he has unfortunately disconnected, which is sad to see. Just as I was about to jump to him, he did make his way up to 6th place, managing to overtake Omar Badu and then hunting down Jamal. So amongst all of this, Carroll has just as we jump to Rudder, the fight between Rudder and Carroll running a bit wide on the exit of Spoon in his Lexus, getting onto the dirty marbles and running a bit wide, but Carroll managing to stay in the tow of Derek Rudder, coming through 130R. They're going to be hot on the brakes into the Casio triangle. Derek just running quite a bit wide there through the Casio triangle. He does leave Carroll a space. Just coming across a bit too soon there, Derek, but that was very respectful racing. He knew he ran wide and wouldn't have the momentum coming out the corner, and just opting to just stay out of the way and not perhaps lose any more time, started to fight Carroll unnecessarily, because Carroll would have had the run on Rudder coming down into the first corner. So some very sensible racing there from Rudder. Of course, he'll be annoyed with himself that he did overshoot slightly the Casio triangle. But he still has 36 minutes left of this race. There's still plenty of time for things to happen, for things to unfold, make a few places. This is what Derek does. He waits for the opportunity and then strikes. you'll see him just creep up the order, every race, and just start creeping up. As others start making mistakes, he'll just capitalise and he'll just find himself getting points upon points. As Carroll just starts to pull away slowly, just opening the gap by half a second over this half a lap. So, as the jump to the still the on-track battle between Heath and Constantinidis. There's still a second between them amongst all the GT3s starting to come through. Gianni Patterson, the latest driver to make it past them. So Heath and Constantinidis has been an interesting on-track battle the whole of this race so far. As AJ Jones' bike's just going to come and break that up slightly. Constantinidis just moves out the way, no harm done, no time lost, as Heath will have to do exactly the same through the snake section. In fact, Constantinidis just managing to capitalise on that. I think Jones was held up slightly by Heath, and then Heath realised his mistake and backed off the throttle. That has allowed Constantinidis to get right up behind that BMW. That might prove costly for Heath, but Heath has done a sterling job to defend Stavros this far through the race, all the way through. They have not been separated by more than about a second, 1.5 seconds throughout the whole of this race so far. So some tremendous racing between these two. No bits of contact that I've seen, no obvious mistakes. So dealing with the pressure well and putting on a good show for us. Heath, of course, did win the first GT4 round that we had, round 5. So since Stavros has joined the ranks, Heath has been dropping back slightly, but Heath showing a resurgence here, showing that taking it to Stavros and showing that he's not to just one to push out the way and be on your way. Heath is going to fight him all the way to the end of the race. And so Constantinidis has in fact signed for Turn 1. So they are now both Turn 1 drivers. Heath is a Turn 1 driver as well. So these are teammates vying for the same bit of track. So they've got to think here that you can't, of course, take your teammate out. We know how badly that goes in most forms of motor racing. Multi-21 springs to mind. I don't know if there'll be any of that here at Suzuka this time. But if these two drivers do have any comings together, I think that would be one just to watch out for in the future races. There might be a bit of afters in the Turn 1 camp if that were to happen. So let's hope it doesn't. They've been very clean so far as we reach about halfway through the race. I hope it continues to be nice and clean for the rest of it. So the rest of the field, as it stands, is relatively spread out. The closest on-track one I can see is between, well, this pair here, and other than that is Charlie Martin and Simon Capelli, who we saw earlier, who are still Charlie in 8th and Simon in 9th. In fact, we do have two drivers come into the pit lane. Carroll and Rudder have both come into the pits. That is another relatively close on-track pairing, only 3 seconds separating them when they entered the pits. So they'll be going for their mandatory tyre change and then be on their way. It'll be interesting to see whether the gap has increased or decreased coming out of the pits. So as that Omar Badu makes his way through, breaking up the pairing again of Heath and Constantinidis. We'll just have a quick run through of the order so far, as we're approaching halfway through the race. So still out front is Grant Willamot in his Aston Martin, the number 222. And then in second place is Chris Corbin. He's about 6.5 seconds behind Grant. Third place, Gianni Patterson in the Hurricane. And then fourth place, AJ Jones, followed by Jamal Badu and Omar Badu. And the Aston Martins, Vyrick is in 7th place as it stands. So Vyrick did manage to get past Charlie Martin with relative ease since we last saw him. then, of course, that means Charlie Martin in 8th, Capelli in 9th, Carroll 10th, and Rudder in 11th. So that is the majority of the GT3 field. But amongst all that, Constantinides is just managed to close the gap even more to Heath and had a slight look around the outside coming into turn 1, but nothing doing, as we see Vyrick also just trying to get in on the action, just perhaps trying to break it up. The pro turn 1 driver just perhaps in the ears of his turn 1 counterpart, saying, could you just move out the way for me, please? Just don't fight too much and let me through, as Heath does. Vyrick taking to the grass, he's just extending the track limits a bit there, making his way through. And then Hammerhard Rolfsson making his way through in 14th as well. And then in 15th place, Dixon Hurst, followed by Lepke and AO. Of course, AO was one of the earlier cars to pit. I don't believe Dixon has pitted yet, so AO is slightly out of position as it stands. So once Hurst pits, it'll be interesting to see where they feed out, as Rolfsson has indeed pitted as well, hence why he's in amongst the GT4s, which is actually for position, but there's no point fighting a GT3 whether it's position or not. They'll always win. Another one to have come into the pits at some point was AJ Jones. He's back in 9th place, and as Grant Willemot also comes into the pit lane, and we see Charlie Martin leaving the pits as well, so halfway through the race, the optimal time to make the pit stop for the drivers. Get the best out of both tyres. So, Grant going to drop down a couple of places now. Interesting to see, again, if Omar can get in on the action, if Omar Badou can manage to overtake as well. Jamal has gone into the pit lane as well. Jamal Badou has gone into the pits, so that will be a place gained for the number 762 of Omar, and then also Wilhelm Vyrick as well, who jumps Grant in the pit lane. So the pit stop proving quite lengthy so far. In fact, the number 88 of Capelli might just come out in front of Grant Willemot. In fact, he has. So a good lengthy pit stop here at Suzuka. Be interesting to see whether coming back through the pack affects Willemot in any form, whether the likes of Capelli and Vyrick will cause hassle for him. Of course, Willemot is now a turn 1 driver as well, so whether there'll be some team orders for Vyrick to move out of the way as well as Capelli, wait and see. But if Capelli opts to have an actual race with him, that might prove costly for Willemot. AJ Jones, Jamal Badou has managed to feed out just behind AJ Jones, about a second apart. Badou will have some slightly fresher rubber than AJ, but a negligible amount most likely, as they're just about to come through Dunlop Corner. But these pairing have not been too far apart throughout the whole race so far. Of course, Jones was in 5th place, I believe, before he pitted, or 4th place. And Badou just getting a little squirrely in the background of the shot of Jones. Just getting on the power a little bit early. The AstroTurf on the exit of Degda 2 is famously slippery. If you end up out there, there is a high chance of loss of traction, the back going round, or understeering into the bridge, which has happened multiple times to me in different games, and it is very painful. I'm sure a lot of you know at home. In fact, while we were looking at that, Grant did manage to make it past Simon Capelli without too many issues, hasn't lost too much time to catching up with Chris Corbin. And Dixon Hurst also went into the pits, the other GT4 battle we were keeping an eye on between him and AO. In fact, a rather large gap has opened up between AO and Hurst, which is very interesting. AO is currently going through the hairpin, and Dixon Hurst is just coming through Dunlop. So a good 20 seconds between them, I reckon, if the timing screens Good update. 27 seconds between them, so it has not gone too well that for Hurst. Whether staying out meant that he got caught in some traffic or just had a slight incident away from AO, but AO I'm sure will be happy with that, to come out with such a large gap between him and Hurst. AO has just been looking to find that extra bit of pace, and he might be proving that he's found it. The reliability as well, just to keep doing it lap after lap. So a good job done for AO, but Hurst, of course, with that, he'll be looking to make up as much time as possible, whether he can find a bit of luck somewhere to try and close the gap by that much. Of course, there is still Lepke left to pit as well, the number 90 Camaro GT4. And while I was looking at this, Kurt Heath has just left the pit lane, so Heath was the first to bail from the battle out front of the GT4s. Konstantinidis opted to stay out. And perhaps just put in a few clean laps without having Heath in front of him. Who this will benefit, I'm not too sure, because whether Heath was holding up Konstantinidis, if he was, Konstantinidis staying out is going to perhaps separate the pack slightly. As Konstantinidis now comes down the back straight going into 130R, wait and see whether he does opt to dive into the pit lane. So the driver's yet to pit. We've got Konstantinidis and Lepke in the GT4s. And then out front we still have Chris Corbin and Vierick left to pit as well. So the leaders of the respective classes so are in the lead as Konstantinidis does dive into the pits. He opts to have that one lap extra. So as he trundles his way down the pit lane, Heath will be closing down. It'll be interesting to see at what point Konstantinidis does come out on track. Jumping to the front now, Chris Corbin still in the lead of this race. He has probably this lap and the next lap to come into the pits to make his pit stop, as does Wilhelm Vierick as well. So as Chris Corbin comes through the Casio triangle, we'll see if he jumps into the pit lane or whether he decides to give it another lap. Chris always is a famous leave it to the last minute to go into pits. He opts to stay out for another lap, so perhaps on the next time he'll give it a go, but Corbin always does like to leave it late, makes the most of the tyres he has, and then opts for the fresh rubber towards the end of the race. But compared to Willemot, who has managed to make it back to third place amongst everyone else pitting, so Willemot at the minute is most likely the net leader of this race. Corbin is only probably going to lose out to Willemot when he goes into the pits, if anyone, because the gap between Willemot and Patterson is about a healthy 27 seconds. So there's a healthy gap for Corbin to slot into if he does go into the pits, or when he goes into the pits, I should say. As there is in fact there was a yellow flag at the beginning of the snake. The number 42 of Carroll has managed to find himself off into the grass as he manages to get himself going again. So perhaps coming out of turn one, just managed maybe a burst on the power, a bit much, and just finding himself on the grass. Managed to get himself going. There doesn't seem to be any damage on the car. Perhaps managed to just keep out the wall with any luck. And now back on his way again. It's the new addition to our CSM series. And just as you see that, Lepke has managed to earn himself a drive-through penalty as he left the pit lane. So that's very unfortunate for Lepke, because he has actually, in fact, come out ahead. Am I right in saying that? No, sorry, the timing screen is yet to update. So Lepke has rejoined the race with a drive-through penalty, so I suspect that is for speeding in the pit lane of some sort, whether it be on exit or on entry, not too sure. But that's very unfortunate for Lepke in his Camaro GT4. So Chris Corbin has come into the pits, so he is the second last driver to come in. Vierick will be the last driver to enter the pit lane, so stay with Corbin. In fact, we'll stay with Willemot and see where he comes out where Corbin comes out in relation to him. Willemot just coming round Spoon Curve. So he has the faster parts of the track to deal with before getting back to Chris Corbin. Chris Corbin just coming to a stop now. So he has about a 30-second pit stop to try and get things done. That'll be enough time for Grant to try and get back in the lead. Wait and see as he comes through 130R. No dramas through there. Coming down into the Casio Triangle. Running a little bit wide, bit hard on the brakes there. Compromises him slightly. Chris Corbin still stationary as Willemot comes round the final corner. I think Willemot's got this. Corbin is still stationary. Comes past the pit straight, and Corbin is just setting off now. So a good move there from Willemot. So Willemot really taking the lead from Chris Corbin. Chris Corbin just coming out behind Dixon Hurst, and that's the pit window closed. Vajek is also in the pits. He managed to get into the pits before the pit window closed. So Vajek probably dropped down to maybe about 6th or 7th place. Now I've been told that Oscar Sandberg is going to be joining me in the commentary box, which would be nice to see at some point. So when he enters, we'll hear from him, what happened, whether it was in fact a disconnect or what went wrong, and then also his opinions on the race so far. I'm sure he'd have been following the stream as well. So it'll be good to hear from Oscar, one of the drivers. A nice little treat for us here in the commentary box, as well as you at home. So this has actually been a masterclass for Dami Ayo. He has come, Konstantinidis, after going into the pits, has come out behind Dami Ayo, which is rather surprising. That has worked out rather well for Kirk Heath. He has managed to scarper up the road, has got maybe about a 10-second gap, a 9.3 second gap to Ayo and Konstantinidis. So that has not worked out well for Stavros there. Whether he can try anything down into the Casio Triangle or perhaps just elects to stay behind, all about the exit, and then try and capitalise going down into turn 1. Speaking of turn 1, I think Sandberg has just joined us. Are you there, Oscar?
I'm here.
There we go. So Oscar Sandberg, everyone, has joined us in the commentary box. It's good to have you here, Oscar. So what was it a disconnect for yourself from the race there?
Yeah, I don't really know what happened to myself, to be honest. That was quite a quite unlucky start, to be honest, because I had qual P3, the personal best, and was quite happy, and then I was ready to go when the green light came, and then the game threw me back in the pit. So it started with that, you can say. So not the best start. So theoretically, then it's just to get your head down and get to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could go quite early. The counter normally comes from 30 seconds. From 20 seconds I could go, so I was not so too far behind, putting down very good lap times as race times and all the stuff. But yeah, at once I was P6, I think. I was hunting down Pudu, and from there on just everyone disappeared. So something happened with my internet. I'm very sorry for that. And then now my internet works again now, so I don't know what happened.
It's always an unfortunate one, of course. So I suppose that's the equivalent of having a gearbox or engine malfunction, something that can't be helped, but is part of sim racing. Sometimes the internet goes, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, you can say it that way. It's frustrating in that moment, and but yeah, now I try to support my teammates to have a short look and see that everyone is finishing where they should be, and nobody is crashing out other people and this thing. So that can be the work of a spectator, then you can say. But yeah, it is theoretically, okay, we are testing new cars now, so it is good as this race and not maybe the next one at Spa. So I will be more frustrating if the next one if it would have been the last minutes of the next race.
Yeah, of course. So the next round for our viewers at home is the 2-hour special at Spa-Francorchamps. So do you think you'll be going back to the Bentley then for Spa?
I think the plan is then to go back to the Bentley, yes. I think for us, we are still leading the championship, me and Wilhelm, in the team championship, the driver championship, some points in front of Wilhelm, and we will go in there as trying to finish off where we stopped with the Bentley, you could say that way, trying to get as many points as possible and then see what the future brings. We have a lot of exciting projects going on with a lot of long distance races. We have, for example, in end of December, we have one 24-hour, we have one 9-hour, we have one 6-hour. Now start on December, the whole team, we are coming with 5 cars in the 3-hour of Imola, for example. That's official races. So yeah, we turn one getting bigger and bigger, you can say. Happy with that.
Hey, it's great to see that it's over the past couple of months, really, the team has grown quite substantially as well.
Yes, it has.
Do you think that the growth, well, I'm assuming you hope it will carry on, but perhaps you've got any plans for the future of what you want to achieve?
Yeah, so you can say my dream with Turn 1 is more like, okay, I hope we can actually be 2 competitive cars in, for example, like, 24-hour races and things like that, and maybe 1 or 2 drivers go to official sprint racing championships. But the most of all, we are a team with many drivers at the moment. So at this point, it's more to connect drivers who is interested in building up, who is interested in helping us, me and Wilhelm, to build Turn 1, and from there on try to keep the cars on track and don't crash into each other. That is theoretically priority 1, you can say, and from there on we just focus on building a very good base and trying to get as many people happy and fast on track.
I think that's a very good aim. So, of course, you have a Turn 1 Discord, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, so, of course, for all the people watching the stream now, of course, feel free to join the Turn 1 Discord server. You'll be able to be with like-minded people if you're interested in sim racing, perhaps if you're a seasoned pro or if you're perhaps just looking to get into it. Caters for all abilities. If you can share tips, tricks and setup changes and things like that, just a good place to discuss all things racing with a predominant focus on ACC. But do you have any other games that are looking at like iRacing or anything, or is it mainly ACC?
I mean, at the moment it's just ACC that we are really focusing on. We have some drivers who is interested in other games, but theoretically that's more the individuals who it's choosing that, you can say. The base is more ACC. I think we will maybe join the CSM for maybe some of the dirt events just for fun, you can say. Have a shot on that and see how we do with that. But in the end, our main focus is laying on the ACC because that's theoretically the future of professional esport.
Yeah, I think it's definitely made a big claim for that in the way all the GT cars do offer. How should I say? Offer a big opportunity into real world racing. It's of course not cheap, but compared to some things going into Formula racing, it can be slightly more accessible. And having a sim esports title going down that route is very good to see.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to show here your talent, you can say. You show it here and then you can actually use the experience you build up here together as a team, together as Turn 1, you can say, and use that on the track later, maybe for us who it's doing the real thing, you can say.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm just going to jump to a quick discussion about 2 of your drivers, Konstantinidis and Heath, because you signed Konstantinidis quite recently, am I right in saying, to Turn 1? He's now a Turn 1 driver. So earlier in the race, they was separated by a second for about half an hour. Is it a case of, do you let your drivers race, or is there very much a sort of leave it till the last 10 minutes and then see how it goes?
As a driving team manager, you can say it that way. I like to see people race. I'm a bad example maybe with the last race we completed in Barcelona, that we had, me and Willem had a big touch and things like that, but that's also racing. I mean, in the CSM we are driving here for having fun, we are driving here for learning each other, and then in other big races, theoretically the endurance championship and this thing, it's more about team sport, team spirit, but here it's more like, hey guys, keep it on track, keep half a meter, 30 centimeter away from each other, and from there on feel free to have the fight of your life. That's okay. I see Keith is doing very well at the moment. He have like a 5.8 seconds distance at the moment, so it looks like he find the M4 out this time, and but the Asen is also very constant, very fast, so this is a very good job from Keith actually.
He has done remarkably well. He also made the right decision to pit slightly earlier. That's where Stavros did seem to lose out slightly. But they also do have Dami Ao. He is not too far behind. Has lost out slightly to Stavros, but there's also a threat there of any sort of mistake between the two drivers could lose out to Ao as well.
Yeah, I see that he have had a very good progression throughout the championship, and because in the start, I mean, he was a little behind Keith, was especially behind Keith because we of course have been following Keith a little longer, but it seems like that he like Suzuka quite good. It looks like it's maybe fit the AMG maybe a little more than it does with the BMW and the Asen.
Just a little bit. It is great to see the drivers' progression throughout the season. I mean, also to jump on another one of your drivers, like Capelli, and Capelli's gone round. In fact, Simon Capelli, just coming out of the hairpin, has had a quite major off. That's unfortunate for Simon there. Simon is another one of your drivers. Is Derek Rudder Derek just deciding to go for the narrow route between the wall and Simon there. I'm not sure whether Derek managed to come off without any damage there. It'll be interesting to find out, but the car does look a mess, I'll be honest. That was a brave move from Derek to go there, but very unfortunate for Simon to spin himself round there. He was one of the drivers. In fact, there looks like some pretty substantial damage on that Aston Martin. The bonnet is up.
I think he was quite unlucky with that one. Just get the damage from the wall, and then maybe took it the wrong way, you could say, had the wrong instinct, you could say, take the left side instead of the right side.
Yeah, of course it looked like Rudder had, I think, was it Carroll on his right, and then thought, I don't want to push him off the track, so tried to squeeze it down in the gap between Capelli and the wall, but yeah, maybe could have gone the other way. I guess it's one of those split decisions, really. Just react to it.
I see that Rudder also have quite a good damage on his car. So also lost out to Carroll. So I mean, I think for them now it's just to keep going the last 8 minutes and just try to get to the finish without disturbing any of the other drivers. Wow, just keep it rolling, keep the points. That's what's most important. As long as you don't get that disconnect, I mean, then you get points. So
exactly, of course. Yeah, you do get points throughout. Wherever you finish in this championship, you do get points, so it's worth, even if you do get damage, it's worth sticking around and finishing the race.
Yeah, that's what I find quite good with the championship, because it doesn't matter where you end, you just need to collect points, and the point system is built up that way that you can still fight about places even when you have 1, 2, maybe also 3 bad races. If you do then one good again, you are back to your pace, then you actually can get some good points and fight again with the championship, with the maybe the top 5, the top 6, or where you are in the championship.
And there is, of course, a dropped round as well, so your lowest scoring round will be discarded. So if there is that one where perhaps you did be put round, like Simon has, that it will be dropped, so it's not such a calamitous event if it's just a one-off.
Yeah, that's true.
So one of the other drivers I wanted to pick up on was Charlie Martin. Is it her progression as well throughout this championship, and she's managed to break into a couple of big league races as well with some pro drivers. A big step for her, and watching her improve as well.
Yeah, you can say that one of our, say, promoters in Turn 1 is our Charlie, you can say. We will also compete this, I have pushed on it, and I have taken her with me, you can say it that way, that I have somehow take her in the hand and we go through the sim racing world. So we will be driving actually the female cup for the sim grid the weeks it's coming, me and her together.
Oh, that'll be good.
You know, the females of the team, we will fight. You know, no, but that's she have done a very good progression in the CSM, and for her it's more to get theoretically driving, training kilometers behind the steering wheel, get some information, get some knowledge about setups and which different cars maybe fit her best. This time with the Bentley, she was theoretically just thrown into the Bentley, you can say. In the start, because she joined in quite late in Turn 1, and that was the start of the CSM, but she had a very, very good progression. She had some top 5 finishes in this thing, so she's coming and going a little because she's quite busy with other very important charity events and things like that, so she's doing a very, very good and serious job with her career inside racing and this thing. She's actually from 2021. She's a Praga factory driver, so we actually have a factory driver in the starting field here, and not everyone can say that.
No, not at all. That's the Praga. I can't remember the series, but I think I know the car. I think I'm aware of the car they drive. That is a serious bit of kit.
I have to admit that I haven't been reading too much about it, to be honest, because I had so much other stuff to do with the Turn 1 and other stuff too. But the most important for us is that to keep her in a good light, you can say, with the Turn 1, and that, yeah, for us, she is theoretically one media star, you can say, that it's good to have in the team. She's also super, super friendly. She's super open about her stories and about telling people what she have done in her decisions and things like that. So, but she's doing good here. I mean, she's still top 7, and I don't think she have had too much training because she have had some big stuff this week, so I'm quite impressed every time Charlie is coming and doing a good job. And she also says she really loves ACC and she enjoy every moment she's driving.
Well, that is lovely to hear. That is perfect. That's exactly what you want. And so with that, Konstantinidis is catching up with Heath. There is currently about 1.2 seconds between them as we reach the last 3 minutes of the race. This is going to be the battle to watch for the end. But as as a team manager, as what we touched on earlier, hopefully no comings together, no bits of contact.
I mean, I see they have some distance behind at the moment. I see, so I'm not sure how long it is now. It's actually under a second between them, but it is also a big difference between the M4 and the Aston. Let the best guy win. That's how it is. But please, it's always nice to not have any touches in this thing. But doesn't we all love a little door-to-door racing?
A little, yeah, exactly. A little bit of door-to-door, side-by-side. That's what we want to see, isn't it?
So I mean, why not? I mean, it's better to let them drive and try to.
Yeah, you see Stavros just sticking his nose in. Oh, there is a little bit of contact there. Heath, in fact, being sent round into the grass, and he then he's taken out, I believe, Omar Badou as well. That was a hefty shunt. Badou, in fact, coming off relatively unscathed by that, but Heath may have some serious damage on the car. That looked like it may have gone in quite hard into the side of Omar Badou, but that is very unfortunate for Heath.
That's maybe not what I wanted to see this time. I mean, yeah, okay, that's also what happens, of course.
The commentators cursed that, I think, wasn't it?
Maybe a little, maybe too much focus on them. No, but of course it happens. I think it will be maybe a small meeting later to talk about what happened in this thing, especially as Konstantis It's theoretically a little news sign, so we have to somehow keep a little track of what's going on and just talk about what's happening and a little debrief, you can say. I hope just Keith can maybe finish in front of Ayo. I hope so. I hope he can keep rolling, get the points, and keep going. I mean, this is racing. That happens. I think Keith is quite irritated at the moment.
I'm not surprised.
As a racer, I think I know. But that's just what happened, and I hope he just keep it rolling. I see he still has 7 seconds, so I hope he just can keep it rolling and don't go into the pit now, please. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So he kept going, so that's good. So at least we try at least to keep in front. So I see he's losing every sector sometimes. So
AO is catching every corner, it seems. Keith will have to pull something out the bag with a good bit of defending. I think towards the second half of the lap is when AO is really going to be breathing down his neck. We'll just keep an eye on that. Luckily, the rest of the grid is pretty spread out, so we're not missing too much, hopefully. Sticking with this. But the time is now up on the race, and Grant Willemot has in fact won round 8 of the CSM ACC Championship. Second place, 4.3 seconds behind, was Chris Corbin. So from his pit stop, Chris managed to close about 6 seconds down on Grant. That was good going, but not quite enough to try and catch up all the way to Grant Willemot there. But unfortunate for Chris, but I'm sure he'll be happy with another second place. Coming in as he did in round 7 as Jelani Patterson also crosses the line. Podium for Jelani. That is very well done for him in his Huracan GT3. So you just jump to see AO has knocked off another 2 seconds off of Heath, as we also see that Rolfson and Carroll have finished 8th and 9th respectively. AJ Jones has come across the line in 4th place, and then Jamal Badou in 5th place as well. Dixon Hurst has finished in 4th place with GT4s, 15th overall, and then Derek Rudder also coming across the line in 10th place. As you see the number 88 of Kelly coming across the line as well, turn 1 driver.
This will be so close. I'm not sure if he can make it, really.
Yes. Coming up the back straight, AO is right behind Kirk Heath, just coming into 130R. AO is going to have the overspeed coming off the exit of the corner. Heath's just going to have to do everything he can to try and defend from this. He's just trying to stick to the inside, using all of the track now, trying to stick to the inside for what will be the Casio triangle. AO just, has managed to get past. Whether he didn't be too late on the brakes, he's managed to keep it together. Oh, that is very unfortunate for Heath, but AO will be counting his lucky stars. He's managed to jump a place there, and that has meant that Dami AO has come across the line to finish in 2nd place on the last set of corners for round 8, and Kirk Heath has finished in 3rd place. Still managed to hang on to the podium, but I know Heath is going to be seething. He is not going to be happy with that.
It will be a small debriefing now after the race, I think.
Yes, I think that might be just give him a minute to calm down and then have a nice polite chat.
I think we will maybe hear something from him later here.
Yeah, of course. We will have the drivers' interviews after the race. Once they've all got into the pits, we will jump into the drivers' debriefing, and hopefully we won't have any. We haven't got Damien here to swear at us like we did last time, so we won't have that. But hopefully we won't pick up any choice words. But that was a very entertaining race throughout. The start was particularly good. I mean, the end there also did put on a good show. The next round will be Spa, 2 hours of Spa, as we were talking about with Oscar. One to look forward to, 2 hours. So, all things considered, a reasonably good day for turn 1, Grant winning.
I'm quite happy with that. We also have signed Pettersson. He will join turn 1 in the bigger events, so I'm very happy. So in my head, at the moment, we are P1 and P3. He's one of the new signs for us. AJ is also one new one for us. So I'm happy with we are P1, P3, and P4. So, and Charlie Martin take another good result with a P7. Håvard is also there. So yeah, we are collecting points everywhere. In the end, yes, we went with a P1 in GT4. Not maybe the way I wanted to see it, maybe, but still, of course, we are happy with a P1 and a P3, of course, to get the points, collect everything we can. But next time, maybe without the touch.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it makes life more exciting, but not when you have a vested interest in it. So, as the last drivers do just make their way into the pit lane, when they do just park up, we'll have a short 20-second break. We'll perhaps hear the immediate reactions of a couple of the drivers, and then we'll set to asking some questions. Oscar, do you want to ask a question or two, or should you leave it to me?
Yeah, I can leave it to you. I think you do an amazing job when it comes to the broadcasting. So I'll let everything over to you, of course.
All right. Thank you very much for that. It was lovely to have you in the commentary box. Thank you for joining us and giving us your insights as well.
Thank you to you guys too. Next time, I hope I can finish the race.
Yes, hopefully we will be talking under better circumstances next time.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Oscar. And so with that, Ayo's just jumped into the pits. So we will have 10 seconds of silence from me. We'll see what the drivers have to say, and then we'll ask some questions as well. Right, hello everyone. I believe the majority of people are in here, and that was even better than last week. I said last week how exciting it was, but I think this week just about top that. Good amount of fighting throughout the race. I'm going to hear the immediate reaction of Kirk, if it's at all not new language. Kirk, a slight altercation with Stavros. Say that. How are you feeling?
Yeah, can you still hear me?
Yep, could still hear you loud and clear.
Miffed is the word I used, considering we're supposed to be teammates and that, and you know, I'd actually put up and absolutely put my heart into that race, and then for it to come apart like that, you know, pretty much the last lap, it's massively frustrating. But yeah, just limped it home and still took a podium, so it's still points on the board. But after all that race, I think I really deserved that win, to be honest. But yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I think there was a good case for that, because halfway through, your pit strategy worked wonders. You came out easily about 10 seconds ahead of, or even not more than Stavros. So good pit strategy did put you in good stead.
We actually came out, pretty much he pitted a lap after me, and I pretty much just overtook him as he was leaving the pits. But there's a GT3 car right behind us as well, and I think that just added to the drama. So I just hung it around the outside and took him going into the first 2 or 3 S's. So he was right on my tailpipes then, but I just kept in it and just kept up a good fight. Cleanly, left him plenty enough space, and then wait till we got through the S's, then let the GT3 car go, and then that's it. I was just trying to keep the gap ahead then. But yeah, he gave me a very, very good fight all race. Like, I was definitely sweating in that one, but still, for it to end like that was just yeah, pretty poor, really.
So it's always unfortunate, but we'll go to the intermediary between the two parties, Damieo. A good second place there. You must be happy with that.
I just locked into it. I thought I was destined for another third place finish, and when I saw the relative coming down in the last 2 laps, I was happy, but obviously upset I can imagine why Keith is upset, but I'll take it.
I mean, after as you said before, the previous third place finishes, a second place now, a first place next time. Is that what we're seeing? Upward trend?
Hey, if the racing gods are with me, of course.
Well, I wish you all the best for round 9 at Spa next time. Thank you very much. And then Stavros, the winner of the GT4 class here at Suzuka. not without some controversy, though, Stavros.
This time around, this was way too interesting, actually.
There's too much going on compared to last time. There
You
was,
were actually missed a half lap after our pit stops because I came out of the pit stops in front of Kirk and hold him behind me for around half a lap before we collided again. You only saw one of the two collisions we have today with Kirk.
I,
In my honest opinion, I left enough space both the times, but I'm still looking the replays actually to show I'm confident. From my part, I was kept in my half of the track. I suggest Kirk to do the same thing and see where the whole story, before and after we collided, to see he could have left me just half a meter more.
it's just one of those things, I guess, for the both of you. Of course, you'll go behind the scenes, I'm sure, and have a chat about it and figure it all out.
See, after my stop, I have cold tires, so he could easily cut me, and he could have waited a couple of turns more before he tried to dive me, and he will still pass me. And after I got left behind, I fell behind Ayo, even. I was third at some point. And I pretty much got so frustrated and so hyped up to get him back. I actually did almost 212 at some point. 212 high. 211 high.
That is a blistering lap for a GT4 as well.
Yeah.
But well done there, Stavros, for winning the GT4 class. Whether there'll be a stewards inquiry, I'm not sure. But
to see the outcome, I suggest Kirk to report them both so we could both have a better understanding for what went wrong there.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think it will be looked at for our viewers at home, as well as we'll clear that up on when the race results are announced tomorrow, the full official standings. But thank you, you three. It was a tremendous race to watch. Some good battles there throughout the GT4 field. And now moving on to the GT3s. Jelani, I got your name right this time. I made sure I got your name right and said it correctly. A third place finish. You must be happy with that.
Considering where my car performed today, I'm very happy with third place, and it's another podium, another opportunity to spray some champagne. I'm pretty content with third.
Just make sure you don't spray it on your PC. It was an interesting race at some points.
Green light, go.
Right at the start, there were a couple of opportunities where I thought you might make a push on Chris Corbin. Do you think you, with a few different set of circumstances, you could have pushed on to be higher up the grid in second and first?
In the initial stage of the race, I thought that I could challenge, but as the race progressed, the performance of my car just wasn't there, and I wasn't able to keep it crisp today. Maybe next week I'll give him a rougher fight, but I just want today.
Well, thank you very much, and wish you all the best next week. So then, moving on to second place, Chris Corbin. Another second place, Chris. That's not bad, is it?
No, not bad at all. This one felt a lot more in my hands as opposed to relying on other people's bad luck.
Yeah, I noticed that you were closing quite considerably on Grant. When you left the pits, it was about 10 seconds, and you brought it down to about 4.5. So, with a slightly longer race, do you think you could have got him?
I would like to think so. The middle part, he just was able to keep the lap times down a few tenths a lap more than I was. But towards the end, I usually finish stronger towards the end of the race, and maybe another 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I could have been right up behind him.
So, well, wish you all the best next time, Chris. Maybe a first place finish on the cards. Do you feel that Spa is a track that suits you?
When we did the practice race at the beginning, just before this season started. I was quite strong at Spa, so I'll put in the practice this week and hopefully I can finish strongly there next weekend.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to seeing you then, seeing what you can do. And then that leaves us with our overall winner, Grant Willamot. Grant, another win, 2 on the bounce. Obviously very happy. Are you happy with your performance?
Yeah. I mean, qualifying was good. Finally broke the 2-minute barrier after lots of sweating yesterday. The setup I was using wasn't great. It was just destroying the tyres, so I was very fast for the first 3 or 4 laps of each stint. But then after that, I think Chris was slightly faster than me, or at least we were the same pace. I think if he would have got ahead at any point, it might have been difficult for me to overtake. I had noticed in the other races he always runs a little bit longer. So I just stuck with sort of undercutting, and it worked out pretty well. I think the gap was about 7 seconds before the stops, and when he came out it was about 13, 14 seconds. He was closing me. The last couple of laps I drove around slower because I didn't want to have to do another lap at the end. I was a little bit tight on fuel. So I just lifted off, made sure I didn't cross the line, and just finished the race, 2 seconds after the hour was up.
It's a sensible approach, that, I think. So looking forward then to the next round, Spa. Of course, you've got 2 on the bounce, but then Oscar and Wilhelm will probably be coming back in the Bentley, so that's something to worry about for you.
Yes, it's going to be really tough. Obviously, I'll give it a go. I'm not looking forward to the big sort of drag up Eau Rouge down to the first proper braking zone with the Aston Martin off the line. It's not particularly great, but we'll see how we go.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for putting on a tremendous race. Thank you for your honest post-driver interviews as well. I hope you all enjoyed it for yourselves. I hope you all enjoyed it at home. I hope you were following along on the stream, and you enjoyed also Oscar giving his input in the commentary box. Thank you, Oscar, as well, for joining me there. But in the meantime, I have been Chris Reardon. I have been your commentator. This is brought to you by CSM, Caribbean Motorsport, our ACC Championship. Next week, same time, Sunday, we'll be at Spa for a special 2-hour race, and I hope to see you all then. Thank you and goodbye.